Dr. Lamb arrives outside the old Mayfair house on 1st Street. Having taken over for the previous doctor, he's come to give Deirdre, who is in some kind of unresponsive state, her Thorazine shot. However, he first reviews her file, where he spots a man on the porch near Deirdre. However, when the doctor goes to see Lasher, he disappears, with Delphine claiming that there is no man. Nevertheless, Dr. Lamb asks for a moment alone with Deirdre and questions what happened to her. Elsewhere, Rowan is sailing the sea in her boathouse before returning to the port, where she is greeted by her adoptive mother, Elena. Rowan comforts one of her young patients at the hospital and tells him that he's going to be just fine as they prepare for surgery. However, when Rowan enters the operation room, Dr. Keck announces that the board decided to sit in on the operation, and therefore, he will be taking the lead. Rowan fears that the position Keck currently has the boy in will worsen his bleed. Fortunately, they manage to successfully operate. Afterward, Maya expresses how grateful she is for Rowan and insists that Keck should have been following Rowan's lead. Elena reluctantly reveals to Rowan that her cancer is back. Distraught, Rowan embraces her mother before going to Dr. Keck's office and asking for a favor. Keck refuses to do so, claiming that she's not ready to take the reins due to her arrogance. Enraged, Rowan seemingly uses some latent ability to rupture Dr. Keck's artery. Young Deirdre confesses to Father Duffy her sins. Though he's more curious about Lasher, Deirdre claims she hardly ever sees. Lasher is some kind of a devil or a demon connects with their family. Aunt Carlotta takes Deirdre home where Carlotta scolds her for encouraging Lasher and tells her to go to her room. Deirdre blames Lasher for her punishment. Lasher recalls the time he spent with her mother when she was Deirdre's age. Present day, Rowan confesses to her mother that she's responsible for the artery in Keck's brain rupturing, though Elena isn't convinced. Rowan believes that maybe she has some kind of genetic condition. She doesn't know her biological parents. Elena has tried in the past, but it was a closed adoption. Rowan leaves. Elena pulls a card with a symbol on it and asks to speak with a person who is assigned to her daughter's file, that being Cyprian Grieve, to whom Elena leaves a message, saying that her daughter has harmed someone with her mind, and she needs him to see if something has changed in New Orleans. Rowan heads down to the local bar to hook up with Max, the bartender, though he has a date with someone else. Rowan seeks companionship with random guys, but Max goes home with her, where they have sex. 3 young gentlemen stand before Cortland at his party. He picks one of them out and says that he has a job for him. He then greets Deirdre as she arrives at the party. Cortland notices a necklace around her neck, revealing that it belonged to her mother. Patrick, the young man from earlier, has come to ask her to dance. Lasher has followed Deirdre to the party. He watches as she dances with Patrick, before heading upstairs, where they have sex. The following morning, Deirdre awakens, but Patrick is nowhere in sight. She looks out the window to find a body being carried out by the servants. Cyprian arrives at the old Mayfair house on 1st Street. He removes his glove and touches the fence before calling Elena and revealing that the man is still close by, suggesting that Rowan isn't in any danger. Rowan arrives at Ravinia Research for an interview with Daniel Lemmel. Rowan tells him about her mother's cancer and she wants her in for the trial. However, they only have so much room with the trials. So, if she wants to put her mother on the list, then someone will have to be removed. She refuses to pick a name and then goes on to pick apart Daniel's ego before rupturing his artery. Rowan goes to her mother's house and climbs in bed, crying and revealing that she has some kind of monstrous power. Elena refuses to spend her last days worrying about Rowan. Now several months pregnant, Deirdre is visited by Father Duffy. Deirdre claims so many awful things have happened in the house, including her own mother's death. Deirdre got pregnant from Lasher, but she hasn't seen him since the night of the party. She pleads with the priest to get her out. But the priest is also scared of her aunts. Deirdre walks out onto the balcony, prepared to jump. Lasher arrives and forces her back onto the balcony, telling her to come find him. Downstairs, Lasher reveals that the necklace she wears binds them together. But only because her mother made that choice for her. She takes the necklace off and Lasher shows her who he is, a shape-shifting demon. After doing so, Lasher replies that she is his witch now. Deirdre gives birth to a baby girl. Carlotta takes the baby away from her. Carlotta meets with Elena, telling her Elena will also no longer be a Mayfair and can never return to New Orleans. Rowan is at her mother's side as a priest blesses her. Rowan takes her hand as she breathes her final breath. Carlotta lies to Deirdre, claiming that the baby has died. Dr. Lamb notices the necklace around Deirdre's neck and removes it, unknowingly releasing Lasher. He then whispers in her ear that he's not going to give her the Thorazine shot. After getting word that Lasher is on the move, Cyprian calls Elena, but she doesn't pick up. Meanwhile, Rowan awakens in bed to the sound of a strange noise. She stumbles to the front door, where Lasher appears and disappears with the lightning. In 1681, Scotland, Suzanne and her sister Florrie go searching for Willoughbar and Burdock at the behest of their mother, who is tending to an ill man. While picking flowers in the field, they're joined by the village glovemaker. Suzanne reluctantly pleasures while Florrie closes her eyes and counts every herb. Rowan calls the adoption agency to get information about her real parents as she was adopted in 1991. The lady reveals that it's not possible because their agency didn't open until 1995. Lasher assures Deirdre that change is coming now that he's found her daughter. But to see her, she needs to wake up. Delphine is feeding Deirdre when she notices a tear run down her face. Cyprian breaks into Rowan's home, discovering that Rowan is suffering and that she has remarkable, yet dangerous powers. Rowan meets with Dr. Davis, who asks about her emotional state. Rowan explains that she's at her best when she's working. Davis talks about Daniel Lemmel. Rowan becomes upset, Davis's nose starts to bleed, and Rowan exits her office abruptly. She heads to her car in the parking lot, where her car is now covered in bird droppings. Rowan stares at the crows above until several of them drop dead on her car. Cyprian watches from afar and takes photos as she recovers the birds and drives off in her car. Rowan drives to the beach with the dead crows and buries them. She takes an alprazolam tablet and falls asleep. Rowan dreams of her mother just outside the old Mayfair house. Cyprian believes that Rowan deserves to know who she is, but Samir wants to wait until they know more. Deirdre then awakens to the sight of Dr. Lamb, who tells her that he has a lawyer who specializes in familial situations, but it might take some time. As Carlotta approaches, Dr. Lamb falsely injects her with her Thorazine shot. Rowan awakens on the beach surrounded by strangers in the middle of a party. She starts to leave and confronts Cyprian. She tries to walk away, but he grabs her hand, and Cyprian is left in an unresponsive state. An ambulance takes him away, and she takes his phone and discovers an old photo of her mother in New Orleans in 1990. Rowan arrives at the hospital to check on Cyprian. She learns that he ripped out his fore and ran. Rowan is on a plane to New Orleans. While going through the photos, she notices Lasher in the background. Deirdre places her necklace around her neck and Lasher appears. He tells her that they'll leave in the morning and that Rowan is already coming to them. Deirdre and Lasher proceed to have sex. Oddly enough, Rowan experiences a similar sensation in her sleep on the plane. The next day, Carlotta leaves the house, and Deirdre jumps to her feet, pleading with Delphine not to tell anyone and leaves. Rowan arrives in New Orleans and checks into a hotel, unknowingly walking past Carlotta. Deirdre arrives at her uncle Cortland's. He's in disbelief and embraces Deirdre after so many years apart. Rowan heads to the bar, where she approaches the tour guide from earlier and asks if she recognizes the house. The tour guide identifies it as the old Mayfair house. After washing up, Deirdre reconvenes with Cortland. She reveals that her daughter is alive. Carlotta hid her away all these years. Deirdre performs a spell that connects her to Lasher, allowing her to see through his eyes as he tracks Rowan to her hotel room. Lasher discovers the exact hotel and room number. Rowan gets a call from Cyprian, who reveals that he works for the Talamasca and that her mother reached out to him to protect her. Cyprian knows what she's capable of and is willing to help her control it. Deirdre enters the hotel lobby, much to Carlotta's disbelief. Carlotta attempts to take her home, but Deirdre refuses to go, also revealing that she knows her daughter is alive. Meanwhile, Rowan exits her room to meet with Cyprian in the lobby. She waits for the elevator to arrive. When the doors open, she comes face to face with her mother, whose head has nearly been cut off completely as she drops to the floor. Thanks for watching and make sure to press the subscribe button for more amazing videos.